I work here as a speech language pathologist at North Kansas City Hospital. I primarily work with our pediatric population, which goes from our very littles, which we'll be talking about more today, which is under 3 years old, all the way up to school age. So that kind of goes up to 16, 17 years old. About the oldest one I have currently right now is about 9 years old. Majority of the little ones that I see are actually under 3 years old. So what this course will kind of go over is basically, that big old question as far as what does it take for my child to talk? How can I get them to talk? Are they on point with all their milestones in regards to talking? And so this is what the course will kind of go over. So we are targeting pretty much our littles who are under 3 years old, and also those above 3 years old who are nonverbal. So we will get right into it. So the first thing we are going to talk about is the term communication. And communication is broken up into a few different areas. So when we talk about our pediatric population, it is talking about how we are producing our speech. So speech kind of talks about how we produce those particular sounds. So say, for example, our P sound is pig. Are they producing the P sound correctly and clearly in order for their speech to be understood? So that is what speech largely entails. This next part, which is what we will be going over a lot today, is language. And language is broken up into two more parts. And those two parts are auditory comprehension and expressive communication. So auditory comprehension refers to how we're able to understand what's going on in our environment. The words that we hear, what do those words mean? And when we hear directions, when someone tells us to, let's go find our shoes. So this is pretty much a big, huge foundation when we think of our communication and our language. This is what we call our foundation, more so than we are not necessarily thinking of it as a hierarchy, as we get this first and we get this second. We are building a house of language. A house of language needs the foundation of auditory comprehension first to build that next step of expressive communication to have a whole communication and tool. The biggest part, which we always love to focus on, is expressive communication. And that deals with how we're able to use words in order to request, to comment, and also identify. So we will be talking a lot about language in this little group. So here we go. We have some skills that we have to acquire over time that will help us develop our expressive and our receptive language skills. So in order to build up those skills exclusively, there are these other skills that we'll be going into. And one of the big ones is this developing longer attention span. And the key is we want to develop their attention for at least 5 minutes. Either doing it on their own while they're playing, or whether they're playing with another person, that being a child or an adult. It is what we call a big gatekeeper, because this tells us what comes into our brain and what we're going to learn and kind of take away as far as from experience. So to develop that attention, which is very hard sometimes, especially when our very little ones love to explore and wander and go around. So these are some things we can try. One of the things is anything related to music and movement is a big, huge thing, because it involves many facets of what's going on in a child's experience. So that would be how they're moving in their physical movement, how they're working on their listening, how they're working on rhythm with the music, which is very important when we're talking in a very, very intonation. And in doing this, we can say we are going to reach up high to the sky and then touch down to our toes all the way to the bottom to involve our whole body to get it going. So I call this like a warm-up to get them into something that we want them to really focus on. So activities we want to pick out are things that they really, really like. So let's say, which is a very kind of classic kind of activity, is just the cars. You're going to play with the cars, go up a ramp, go around a bend, do different things with these cars and make them very interesting and hone in on their attention. The other thing we also want to do is we want to use the one more rule. If we're not able to get them to stay attended to one task, we can also say, oh, we're going to do one more, put the cars into the bucket, and then we can go and play outside. And you can kind of stretch it more and more, as much as we can to get that longer attention span as best we can. So let's see our next skill is back and forth play. So back and forth play is very important when you're trying to take turns between two people. And this is important, especially when you have conversations. We're going to work towards back and forth play and to understand what's going on. So you are going to trade items with the child. I have a car, you have a car. Can we trade? Can we change? Can we move it to something different? Oh, we're going to trade it for the bear instead. So we're going to take the object and do something with it in order to increase these interactions. Because the more exchanges that you can create between yourself and your child, the more that they can kind of understand, oh, there's something important about this interaction. And there's something that I need to learn from here. And the more that we do it, practice is always the key. All right, let's try our next skill. So our next skill is changing our attention between different things. So this is a little bit tricky here when we kind of say, shifting things. We are talking about, let's say a child was in the car and they're playing with the car. They're shifting attention from playing with the car to interacting with you to going back to the car. And so we want to have this shift because we want to have them learn the different things about what's going on in their environment and what do you need to pair with that. So one of the big things and one of the easiest things we can do in our day-to-day activities is take those daily routines. Daily routines include putting on shoes, brushing your teeth, bedtime routine, waking up, breakfast, and the big one, which is diaper changes. So if we put words on step-by-step sequences into these routines, it's something we can kind of slide in our words there so that they're able to practice on them. So let's take the routine of diaper changes. So diaper changes themselves sometimes can be pretty chaotic and other times it can be pretty calm. But the whole idea with the diaper change is we want to get to that sequence of we want to get that diaper, take it, find the trash can, and put in the trash can. And our goal is for them to follow that sequence as well as sometimes even use the words as far as, where are we going? So let's say you gave them, we're doing the beginning stages of this routine. They take the diaper and you're going to lead them where they need to go. And they're like, okay, we're walking. We're going to the trash. Where are we going? We're going to the trash and see if they can find the trash. So usually the whole idea of this is first you move to finding the trash can, using maybe the word trash eventually within that routine, and then following it all the way through eventually after practicing it a few times. So this is really one of the biggest things to really pick on is those routines, because we already do them. It's not something new and special we have to add to our daily activities, and it's something that's really functional and easy to kind of practice on the spot. The other thing you can do is also think of a new skill, or maybe an old one. And what I mean by skills is, let's say something requires a little bit more thinking as far as doing something. There's also, again, some stepping ideas throughout this activity. So let's say we are cooking something. So let's stir it up. Let's scoop it up. And if they're not able to do it, we are going to do hand over hand. So the child's hand is over here. You're going to grab over it and help them pour and hand over hand. Let's pour. So even though they're not doing it themselves, you're practicing it with them. And that motion and having those words with it will help them understand and practice on this activity. The next thing we can also do to increase this joint attention and having them pay attention to doing those things is to teach that look at you. So either you can say look, watch, so they can pay attention to what you're doing, point to it, or somehow highlight it. Either we'll be shaking, look, or have them touch it, look. And I want you to also copy what I'm doing. So look what I'm doing. I'm jumping, jump, jump, you jump, jump, jump. So the whole idea of copying back and forth. If they don't say the words, that's okay. What we were looking for is, are they able to understand what is going on in this situation and eventually understand what the word jump means. Skill. Next one is react to events and the environment. So this relates to, I take it as all our senses, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we touch, what we taste. These are all the things that a child will pop up, and we need to provide those experiences. And it doesn't have to be new toys. It doesn't even have to be brand new experiences, but we have to offer opportunities. So it's other different toys that can be looked at, can be listened to, like pushing a button or something to be played, something that can be held, something that's soft, something that's heavy, things that can be mouthed. Some of the times there are children who need to have stimulation in the mouth. They need to chew on something. So sometimes we have chewing sticks, or we have something that's a little bit more stretchable. And of course, exploring. So either you can go on a adventure, you can create blanket forts and hide in there and say, where are you? Oh, where did you go? I can't find you. So in creating all these opportunities, they are able to take in everything from their environment in order to grasp all these new words and to kind of learn from it more. Okay, let's see our next skill. All right, our next skill is responding to people when they are being talked to or played with. So this is that piece in the social piece where we are working on having them interact with others, respond to others consistently. And communication takes two. So we have to have another child another adult in order to create a feedback to tell them, oh, that's really kind of right. We won't say exactly like that, but it's like, oh, good job. Let's try it this way, and see if we can kind of shape the response that we want or what they should be doing to be playing with a certain toy. So this is a big piece that I have noticed has come to be really difficult, especially in COVID. We are not able to have those experiences with other children as we used to. And a lot of times, some children, especially our little ones, find it very, very awkward to interact with other kids. Some may kind of stand off and are just unsure. Others will just not engage because they don't know how to practice with other kids their age because they don't have the opportunities. So to kind of go around that nowadays, we are trying to work on those kind of skills to either find other people in our family, our friends, that we can kind of use to practice those same skills. And hopefully we can transfer it over. But this is one of those skills that has been very difficult to learn, especially nowadays. All right. The one big infamous thing of TV, tablets, phones, all our electronics that we dearly love nowadays. We are definitely in a different age and where we have devices that are available to us that pretty much give us access to a lot of different things, which are helpful, but then as well they can be harmful. So the American Association of Pediatrics usually advises that a child 3 and under is only allowed to have 2 hours of television per week. Now, we kind of sit with that for a little while. I mean, that is something very difficult that a lot of their parents have. But the thing to focus on for is not necessarily to avoid all these electronics completely, but it is to use these electronics as a tool. So let's say a lot of our kids, again, we go back to music and movement. There's lots of videos that are played that include all the music and all these characters that move around. And they're picking up all these words from these songs. The good thing about this is that they give that experience and repetition of what the itsy bitsy spider is and how the spider kind of goes up. What it lacks is that back and forth interaction. If I do something else happens. With a electronic, you are it's very one-sided. You are staring at a screen with expectations of instant gratification all the time. And for a lot of the time, especially when we're growing up in age, we need to know how to wait, and that we need to know how that we are going to sometimes need to listen and need to do something first before we get what we want. And sometimes it's very hard to kind of do that when you're watching a lot or too much of these television shows and educational shows. So what I like to kind of encourage actually with using the tablets especially is do the songs with your child at the same time. Don't allow them to have their tablet just on their own. Have it be a shared activity. And that is the big thing. We need to have that someone to teach the child, what to expect, like say for the songs. Sometimes the songs don't show up for itsy bitsy spider to climb up the wall or that the rain goes down. And these are things too that we can practice without having the tablet as well. But it's an extra kind of something that will help it bump it up a little bit more to that extra level. But I don't want to necessarily use it exclusively and use it too much. Next next thing, of course, is we always want to include our kids in all our activities and want to make it fun and exciting. So let's say, for example, we are going on a shopping trip, and a lot of times it's very hard for them to kind of stay in our cart and stay kind of in one place and to, while mom needs to do all the groceries or that. So one thing we can do in order to put in an activity is we'll try to do for a scavenger hunt. Mom needs to go find the milk. Can you help me where the milk is? Show me. And you can point where it is so we can keep them engaged in doing something. If you need something to do in between those times where you're like pushing the cart and trying to go find the milk but not quite there yet, other things we also suggest is either a little toy for them to play with while they're in the cart. You can talk about what the toy is doing. Oh, you're opening it up, and then the transformers opened up and it popped out. So we always keep it an engaging activity, always having that back and forth interaction. The next thing, which is important as well, to have that joint attention and that back and forth interaction happening, is to have that eye contact. Eye contact sometimes can be easy and sometimes can be really, really difficult. So for eye contact, if it's something that's really enticing, something they really, really like, it is like say head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And they're doing the full motion with you. So they're looking at you while you're doing all the body parts for that. And you encourage every so often that they'll look at you and pay attention to you. And the reason why you want to do that is, well, for one, when we're in our social environment as we grow up, eye contact is important and something socially that we want to try and teach our children. But it also, the other piece, the most important piece is, again, we know that they're focusing, we know that they're paying attention, which was that first piece that we hit. And that big gatekeeper, that's how we know we're targeting it. So, and the last one, we want to reward when we see a successful interaction and they are doing something that we want them to do. So say for head, shoulders, knees, and toes, they are copying the fact that they're touching heads. Yes, we got heads. Yay, we did it. To high five, usually is a big one. A fist bump is another one we got. We can also do like maybe a treat, something to eat that they're working towards you that you know that they really like. So if there's something that is praising them and is motivating for them, it will be something that will help push them towards repeating it over and over again to learning that skill. All right, here we go to our next skill. Playing with a variety of toys. So I can't stress enough for different variety of toys. We can't necessarily stick with our classic cars. We've got to expand it to, besides your balls, we've also have to expand it to something a little bit different. But always a big thing we always have is like, we don't want to necessarily buy a lot of toys and all of a sudden they're not necessarily interested. If they're not interested in that moment, what I tend to do is usually I will kind of rotate the toys that we play with. If we are playing with the same toy over and over, one of two things will happen. One is they'll focus heavily on this one toy, or they will just not recognize any other toys and not expand anything. We want to branch it further and further from that toy. So in addition to doing that, we can also use the same toy that we have, but we're going to use it in different ways. So let's toy ball. We want to use that ball not only for rolling, but bouncing. We can bounce on our head, bounce on our shoulders. We can spin. We can roll. We can do so many different things with this, and we want to show them the many different ways and how to do that. Again, we are focusing on the eye contact. So let's say you're playing catch. So when they catch, every time they catch, you find a way for them to say, look, yay, you got it. And when you throw it back to, when they throw it back to you, and say, look, I got the ball. Where's the ball? And see if they can look at you and help you find it. So the other thing that we are going to kind of be mindful of as well is to limit what we call self-stim triggers. So self-stim triggers are if someone holds an object at an angle to the eye, or they put their head close to an item too often, or they are kind of shaking or moving their hands or any other body part in ways that are not supposed to, or it's too excessive. So we try to limit those as much as possible. And some of the times we have them wounded as well. Okay. All right. So this goes into the part where we want our child to be talking, following simple directions. So we have gone beyond all the little pieces of our auditory comprehension that was on the bottom of their house. And we're slowly making our way into creating some bridges as far as, I got an understanding of this. I can start to use this word for something. So you want them to be able to do different things with words. So again, we want them to request, to comment, and we want them to identify. So ways for them to kind of do these things and learn these words and follow these directions is from what they hear from the parents or from the adults or the child. So when I say narrate is when you're kind of like reading a story. You're not reading, you're actually reading out of a book. You're reading a story or making a story about what's going on in the child and how they're playing. Up, 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 it goes down by yay. So we're giving a kind of like little quotes, their quotes and things like that. So the child as far as what we like them to say. And some of the times they will copy that same sequence up, 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 down. They'll start to copy the up, 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 or sometimes the last word is down. And again, repetition of having to do this will help them figure out what's going on in the situation, and they will start to copy. We're going to use some keywords like tell me, show me, help me. Show me is the big one I use. Show me, where is it? And I want them to point. The first thing is a big thing we use. Nonverbal communication, pointing. We don't want to help with that. That is not functional motor communication. But we also use signs as well. But as far as nonverbal communication, point is a big one that we do. And the next one is to teach a child to do their part in those routines. So those routines that we already talked about, to put away the diaper, to put on your shoes. So let's say we're getting ready to go out. Oh, what do we need to put on? Do I need to put on a plate? No, what is it? Oh, was it a shirt? No. Oh, it was shoe. Okay, so we've got shoe. This is them doing their part. They're going to find their shoe within that routine, help you put them on, and then maybe help with the Velcro stuff. And these are steps that you can pick out of the routines in order for them to follow. All right. We want them to initiate an action. We want them to be the ones who are the communicators, and for them to make their needs known mess. So in order to do that, it's almost the same way as I was kind of just playing around there with the sabotage. Sabotage meaning that, like I said, oh, it's going to put a plate on my head. And then I need to find a shirt before I go outside. This is where we are trying to get the child to ask for something. So the child is going up into the cabinet. And you have an idea that most of the time, whenever they go to that cabinet, they want to probably get a fruit snack. So if we're starting at the beginning, usually sometimes we use sounds. So num, 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 or num, 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 instead of snack or fruit. If they're able to repeat those words, we always use those if we can, but if not, then we want them to use something in order to tell you, hey, I need something. I don't want them to climb up there and try to grab it. I don't want to grab for it when if you pick them up and bring them towards the cabinet to grab straight for the cabinet and grab those on their own. I want them to show me. And so for them to show me, it's like, let's say you pick them up. Is it here? Was it here? Can you show me? And then we'll so you're kind of shaping that idea that we want them to ask for things on their own. And you are shifting from prompting them every single time, asking them or anticipating them, to having them try to use their words and their sounds a little bit more to do so. All right. So the big things are we want to have them communicate non-verbally first, if they're trying to make that branch verbal. And gestures would include waving, pointing, or facial expressions, and nodding our head. All of those are early pieces of communication that we need to have. And a lot of the time, we develop these before we talk. So we want to reach out that whenever they do something well, we're going to give me 5. Can you show me? And then you're always going to work on the routine of, hi, I'm fine, when everyone comes and goes from the house. That is one of the early things, communication pieces that I do focus on. And then, of course, the finger pointing. I need you to show me where it is. The next one we have is we are going to make those sounds different volumes, super high, super low, different pitches, different lengths. And we are going to play on those sounds and try to copy. So the whole idea is we want you to, I do something and you do something. We're going to make silly faces and silly sounds in order to practice on these things first. The other things you can do as well is make those environmental sounds, which are like a car beep beep, some water going. And if we make these environmental sounds like that, we are kind of having them produce these things a little more functionally within that context. Again, you want to make sure your environment is fluid and everything, increase the productions that you want, the ones you want to target. So let's say you want to work on the word uh-oh, you're going to find a lot of things that you want to drop. Uh-oh, uh-oh. So it's whatever word and goal you want to kind of work towards, that is what you want to have pretty much readily. You can love it. Or you can practice it on an idea like a situation that you want to practice on. This next one, again, is that big piece. By the time that they are able to imitate readily and do gestures and sounds, I mean, this is that big piece where we're going to see a big, huge spurt of words and sort of combination of words and everything. Again, we don't want to start with just those words, we want to start with those sounds. So, whoosh, uh-oh. And you want to wait and pause a little bit, give them a little bit of time to process what is going on and what is happening before you start repeating. If you repeat too often, it will be too much, and it'll be sometimes overwhelming for a child to get what is going on. All right. So we've reached the end of this presentation. So a really good book to look into, and where a lot of the stuff in my presentation is based, is from Let's Talk About Talking. And she breaks down all the skills very easily. She gives you activities in these books to kind of follow and practice. So this is a really great place to start from and kind of learn some more information that way. All right. So this is that time for, if you guys have any questions, feel free to,
Okay, so you can put your questions in the chat or the Q&A. And also, I did not mention that this is going to be posted to YouTube, and you guys can rewatch it, and I'll be sending out the link. And if you have any questions once you watch it again, then you can absolutely message those in too and let us know. Okay. All right, Athena, I think we're good. Thank you so much. I love it. I can tell that you're very, very passionate about working with children.
Absolutely.
All right. Athena, you have a good evening.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.